This is just a quick video about my sleeper computer. Yeah, I built this a couple of years ago. Uh, there's loads of videos about these online, but basically, if you're not aware, the premise is that it's a computer that looks crappy on the outside, but on the inside, it's actually kind of well specced out. It's a term borrowed from the car community, where you'd have like a crappy looking car, but underneath it's been upgraded with a bigger engine, maybe more technology, like better stereo, whatever. I don't know. But anyway, let's go on with the video. So the specs, I'll not dwell on too much. It's just they're pretty good. Nothing super hyper mega, but just pretty good. I'd say pretty damn good actually. So a 7700X 8-core processor. You know, I've really barely touched the sides on this, apart from a few times with some CAD operations. 32 gig of memory. Again, it's been more than enough for what I do. And an RTX 3080, which I recently got second hand for quite a good deal. Now, let's look at the actual case itself. Now, the story of this is I brought this as a computer with the original hardware inside for £1 on eBay plus shipping, obviously, because nobody else bidded on it. It was like an old broken computer, and the guy who sold it to me actually threw in the speakers and which I'll go over in a bit. And some other bits and bobs, because he was like, "Oh, whatever, I don't need this. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Go on then." And the speaker's actually really good, but the other bits I didn't really end up using. As you can see, Windows Millennium Edition. So this would have been from the 2000s or 1999. I'm not too sure when that was released. It's made by a British company called Evesham. I'm not too sure their history, but I know where Evesham is, the place in the UK. As you see, floppy drive, you'll see in a minute, that's just a blank cover. There's no actual floppy drive in here anymore. I had to make room for things, and some blank drive bays. I've been tempted to swap one of these for a USB hub, like a vintage one, and try to upgrade it with USB 3.0 or whatever the latest standard is. Now, this AMD sticker wasn't on here originally. I managed to find a guy on eBay selling the old style AMD sticker, so I purchased that to sort of match the aesthetic of the computer. Personally, I think it's a nice touch. Instead of just sticking the modern Ryzen sticker on there. Now the back might look a little odd. I'll show you what this is all about when I take the cover off, which is just held on by two computer screws, one there. And these weird clip things, but they don't really do much. Or maybe they do. Sometimes they seem to work better than others. Just bear with me. Okay, I've got it. Here we go. So you take the panel off, you'll see much more modern hardware than what would have been in here originally. So let's start at the bottom. Where else better to start? These are NZXT fans that I pulled out of my old computer case. Yeah, pretty good fans. Done the job for many years for me. I moved them over to this computer because why not? Now, the original computer that was in here didn't have any air intake fans. It only had an exhaust, and the exhaust was much smaller than that. So what I did is I got a hole, what we call a hole saw, basically a circular cutting attachment. It goes on a drill, I cut 2 circular holes in the bottom of the case. Now when I unplug it, I'll turn the computer over and show you that. But then I drilled some holes to mount the fans, put a fan filter on the other side. Now the issue there would be that normally, because the legs would be very, very, very small, you wouldn't get any airflow. There wouldn't be any space here where my finger is for those to breathe in. So I also extended the legs, which I'll show you again, to allow air to get under and in. And like I said, there is dust filters under here, so that will catch most of the dust. I mean, it's still a bit dusty, but I haven't cleaned this computer out to make this video. This is just how it's been. The last time it was cleaned out was at least a couple of months ago, maybe longer, maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. And there's a bit of dust, but you know, nothing that bad. And it is on a carpet floor, so I think the dust filter's doing a pretty good job. Now, the next lowest thing, if my camera will adjust its brightness, it's not going to do that, so just bear with. I decided to actually move the computer into better lighting and turn it off to do the overview. So as I just mentioned, these are the 3D printed legs. These are 3D printed with HP multi-jet fusion 3D printing. They're very, very strong. It's nylon 12. I actually work with commercial 3D printing as my day job, so I have access to like industry level 3D printers that can print very, very strong, high quality parts. And these are just bolted through the bottom of the case. Like you could probably hang the computer off that and it's not going to come off. These are the dust filters. You know, not exactly pretty, but you're never going to look at that side really. They're the fans that I just talked about. Now these are 2 SSDs, Kingston ones, kind of old ones now. They used to be my primary SSDs for like boot and video games, but now they're actually the secondary storage. One's like only 250 gig and the other's only like 500, I think, and they're both SATA drives. So they're just kind of like the extra storage. The main storage is an NVMe SSD, which I think is underneath this heatsink down here. Not very exciting to look at. That is a Wi-Fi card that I don't actually use at the moment. It's just sat there for if I do need it at some point. And then above it is my RTX 3080. Now I don't remember if it's either one from a Dell computer or like a Dell Alienware or a HP gaming computer, but it's second-hand. I got quite a good deal on it because a lot of people are hesitant bidding on second-hand like Dell or HP graphics cards because you know there's less reviews and stuff out there on them. But this one's been really good so far. You know, it cools itself nicely. It's not too loud. It looks quite good when it's running, as you saw earlier with its lights. It's been all round really good. Yeah, I've got my 32 gig of RAM. It's Kingston Fury. Big fan of Kingston's memory. I've used them for years and never really had any trouble with them. Perhaps one of the more interesting parts of this build is the air cooler. I've used, I don't remember the exact model of it, but I'll add it in the description. But basically not to make this low profile air cooler. So it's actually just about the biggest air cooler that I could have possibly fit in this case. The door only comes a few millimeters from touching the top of it, they've designed it, you'll notice it's not symmetrical, and that's because they've designed it to be as close to the motherboard as possible. And if this side was as thick as this side, it would collide with the memory. So they make this side thinner, keep that side thick, and bring it all as close to the motherboard as possible, which means you can fit more. It's like the maximum amount of radiator space in this sort of form factor. Sort of, I did briefly mention that the floppy drive is just a panel. You can sort of see that. I stripped the old drive out. That was mostly to make space for cables, and I did consider putting the SSDs up there. I might add some hard drives in up there at some point because the storage is a little bit limited. It's almost full up, to be honest. Rear exhaust fan is an Arctic cooling fan. Again, one I've had for many years. Really good fan. Sort of moved it over into this computer when I built it, and it just fits perfectly in this space just by pure chance. Because the original fan was much smaller. So if you go on the back, you'll actually see my fan is that big, but the original fan was only that big. And these were some kind of plugs for the old computer that don't exist anymore. Nobody uses them. So I removed them, obviously, when the old computer went, and these act as part of the ventilation holes for this exhaust fan. Kind of a low effort way of adding a bigger fan into a case that wasn't designed for it. All the graphics card and the Wi-Fi card and whatever else just fit perfectly in the expansion slots, because them standards have been the same like almost forever. So I didn't really have to actually change anything for that. Just kind of wild when you think about it. And same for the I/O, it just fits in there because the standard has been the standard for such a long time that it just fit, as did the power supply. This is a HX 850i. I've had this for quite a while. This was when this was new. It was kind of not very common for power supplies to have this feature where the fan doesn't actually turn on unless it's needed. That was kind of like a, oh wow, that's a cool feature kind of thing back then, but now it's quite common. I've got it, obviously sometimes people try and configure them so they're on the bottom and it's bringing in air from the outside, but in this situation I wanted to maximize airflow through the computer so that if this fan does come on, it'll be sucking air from inside the case, which will help with the general airflow across the components. Which is kind of the older way of doing it anyway. It's of course a modular power supply, which helps with cable management. Otherwise I'd have a lot of cables and not much space to put them in. I think that's just about everything in here. I don't know if I mentioned this is a 3D printed bracket I made for the SSDs. Yeah, and apart from that, I think I've just about covered everything. Just a bit of another overview. If I put it sort of straight. There we go. I think I'll go over the speakers and keyboard maybe. So this is the keyboard I'm using with this computer. It's an old IBM Model M terminal keyboard. Turn this round. Actually is the date it was made. This particular one, well, the copyright's 1985, but if you look up here, it was actually made in 1989. Made in the UK, which is where I'm from. Now everything about these old IBM keyboards is just built well. It's strong, it's heavy, the back plate in it is really thick, and if you lock out these legs, listen how solid this is. Listen, you know that ain't gonna break off easily compared to some of the flimsy modern keyboards you get. Like, that was built to last, and evidently it has lasted. It's got a nice, it's a bit sticky now, but a nice corded cable, keeps it nice and tidy. It's connected, so something, if you buy one of these keyboards, you've got to consider converting it so it can speak to Windows, because it wasn't made for Windows. So it's got this Soros connector. I brought this on eBay. It's made by a guy on eBay, and that converts the language that this connects to through this weird RJ45 looking connector. It looks a bit like an Ethernet, to a language that the computer can speak. You might just about see my this is just a modern Kingston sort of SD card thing. Nothing exciting, that's just dangling in the way. The speakers I've chosen to use, well, actually came with the case. These are old Creative speakers. They actually sound surprisingly good for what they are. I can sort of play some music on that. It's got adjustment. And a mute. It's handy having a mute button right there if you want to, I don't know, someone that calls you when you've got loads of things playing, you just press that and suddenly you can hear your phone or whatever. I don't know. What I like is one is significantly more yellow than the other, kind of matches the sleeper theme. Everything's a bit off, bit crappy looking maybe. Sort of gives you the illusion that the computer is not very good. Yeah, that's the speaker arrangement. The monitors are just kind of modern monitors-ish. So some kind of Asus 120Hz gaming monitor, and that's just some kind of old Sharp TV that I just use. I don't really use that very often, to be fair. And that's the Lucky Ducky. One more thing I forgot to add is, because I don't actually have any USB plugs on the front, I thought about putting some in, but never bothered. I instead have a USB extension cable. I might get a USB hub at some point, maybe make it look vintage looking, but for now, that's what I'm doing.